Alright, making a video. Probably should turn some kind of light on because it's cloudy outside. Yeah, it's green. One of my greenhouses. Little flower over there. Look, there's a little flower way over there. Oh. Anyway, he's kind of attractive. Just happened to must have had a seed from something that and it just grew. And all the crap I have. So anyway, bonus plant of some kind. Anyway, alright. Yeah, pyrrho video. He's just irritating the fuck out of me lately. And so he's made two videos. One ragging on YouTube, atheists make science look bad. And then the other one is a video to math fails. Who isn't math fails? So anyway, so in this video he can't recognize the amazing atheist, and in the other video he can't recognize math fails. And you're just saying, wow, you can't recognize simple objects in the universe, and you're going to tell us what the truth is. Huh. I mean, credibility failure right there. So, yeah, look, I have very little respect for the atheist community, just mostly because it's still the pantheist community. It's still the, I buy all the traditional notions of value, I just don't buy the God that declared them. Yeah, well, that doesn't make any sense. They're still not willing to take evolution seriously and recognize what it means, which is you're an animal as in your nature. And but who wants to get into all that? That's not the subject of this video, I suppose. The subject of this video is the idiotic rhetoric that Pyrrho uses in videos, and it's just so obnoxious. He keeps, he uses the word spiritual and Mother Nature. I mean, just things I was complaining about in my last video. And he just placates this, and he does the same thing he does with thought experiments. And he does with Sisyphus. All of a sudden he just makes up new rules of what Sisyphus represents as a metaphor, as a myth, and now he's just making up like spiritual means when you have that feeling, like when you put your underoos on and you feel like you're from Krypton. And that's spiritualism. But of course other people hear the word spiritualism and that's not what they're thinking. Okay, they're thinking that there's actually mumbo-jumbo in the universe going swirly-burly and making things happen and changing who we are and blah, blah, blah. That's spiritual to them. And so he just placates that misunderstanding, that misinterpretation, and he does it in this veil of, well, this is called natural philosophy. Like that means something, which it doesn't. There's rational philosophy, and in that scope, there's stuff called hard evidence and soft evidence. Okay, some things we know with a high degree of likelihood because, yeah, everything points to it and nothing doesn't point to it, and some stuff is a little vaguer. And that's the distinction. That's all there is. There's hard evidence and there's weaker evidence. There's strong or weak, or however you want to look at it, but yeah, there's degrees of evidence. And this is just, and there's so some things science knows for a certainty, and yes, some things science can't tell you with certainty. It can just make guesses at what might be causing the effect. But certainly it can rule out mumbo-jumbo and glop and goo and mushy spiritual bibble-babble. Oh, God. Anyway. So, I don't even know what to do with these videos. I'm not playing them because they're just idiotic. They're just going to piss me off. But yeah, I'll read one comment here. Yeah, that's probably worth doing. So anyway, this is the guy, this Kurt Hardley, whatever, he thinks that's math fails, which, is hilarious. And math fails actually does show up, and he just should say, I sent you an update message. This is John. working things out in Hilo. Well, you should have just said, wow, you know, you must really like me, that you remember me so well. I mean, yeah, it's just amazing. I wonder who's gonna think inmendham is next time. I mean, shit. Yeah, you gotta really like a guy when you don't even come close to recognizing him on the street. Anyway, so this idiot. This is a damn good video. As someone also spiritually inclined, whatever the fuck that means. What does that mean? Spiritually inclined? I like to imagine that I'm special? What does that mean? But not particularly science-oriented. Oh, gee, isn't that super? So, yeah, I don't really like facts. You know, I don't... You know, gee, I don't really want to understand how things work. I'll just opine on it from ignorance. Oh, you mean you just don't like having to do all that, like, research and reading and gathering some sort of knowledge of mechanics? Is that what you mean? You just like to say whether it's good or bad? Yeah, your videos like this have given me a good deal of clarity on issues I otherwise wouldn't think as carefully about. So funny. I've always thought it interesting how your scientific materialism, what does that mean? Ties in with your reading of Nietzsche. Yeah, which is also made up. I mean, he doesn't, you know, Nietzsche could plainly say, you know, I don't know, your mother's as coarse as a brick, or I don't know, some kind of thing like that. And he'll interpret that to mean that, oh, that's a good thing. He's complimenting her. Yeah, whatever. Vis-a-vis anti-metaphysics, though I don't really agree that either science or Nietzsche give... Well, yes, and you've given us your credibility, you know, not particularly science-oriented, and now you're going to opine on metaphysics. Brilliant. Oh, shit. Fuck. That's, you know, and I don't know what this means. 13. I don't know what the fuck that means. I'm just so sick of this vague, mushy approach to conversation about reality. Let's just not do anything rational with words. Let's just turn them all into absolute mushy shit. Why? Oh, that's right, because you people really don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and that's the only way you can veil your ignorance. So anyway, I would like to do a draft science video on redshift, just because it's really an interesting subject. And it's interesting in so many irritating ways, again, just because it's like, you know, first they found the sound, Doppler effect, you know, but sound is produced very different. It's in an atmosphere, and clearly you can compress the atmosphere or expand the atmosphere, and so you can change the waves. Just like you can change the density of water and change how sound will travel through it. So it's basically the same thing. You're just increasing or decreasing the density through which the wave is traveling, and so it creates a shift in the frequency of the wave, the wavelength. And but this is not what happens with redshift. And they just keep trying to metaphor the two. You know, they keep trying to pile the two on top of each other. And in my opinion, it's just wrong. It's just wrong to try to think of them as the same phenomenon when they're not, because they're on a whole different level of physics. One is happening in an atmosphere, and one is happening outside an atmosphere. What happens in a vacuum and what happens here in our world is very different. We can observe the huge difference. And it's just wrong to think inside that box created by sound Doppler effect. So anyway, so I'm just saying, I mean, I think there's lots of theories you could come up with for what they're observing in terms of what's happening to light, especially really old light, which is what we're talking about in many cases with redshift. And the fact is, I could just come up with a theory that light does age. And there's no way for us to test that. There's no way for us to create an experiment where light moves for 1 billion years. There's no way we can do that. And, I could argue, I think I could theorize, that all the matter that we haven't accounted for in the universe, the dark matter, that's out there, all these little teeny little bits of crap that are out there, are what's probably creating the redshift, because every interaction is changing light. Every light it acquires the signature of every interaction it goes through, and that's what creates quantum effects in the first place. That's quantum mechanics. And so, I could theorize that. I'm just saying there's no way to test for that. So there could be lots of explanations for redshift besides the theory that they're claiming, which is the universe is expanding, the empty space, and as the light travels through the expansion, it is redshifted, which doesn't, intuitively anyway, make a lot of sense, because distance is speed, and so you're creating acceleration when you expand distance and not change time. So it just gets, I think it creates paradoxes that are cause to say, I think we need a different explanation. So anyway, there's lots of deep, I'll claim my own ignorance, lots of cosmology, I don't know. I don't know what evidence is exactly, how the evidence was created for different things, what experiments exactly have been done, to do anything but draftly talk about it. So it's all soft and weak evidence for any theory I propose. But I don't think this science is hard science. It's soft science, and it's got to be treated that way. I mean, but like I said, it certainly isn't opening doors to spiritual. It's not opening doors to all this mumbo-jumbo of vibrations and all this other stuff. Although vibrations are fundamentally part of what happens to matter and electrons and photons, it's critical to what happens in quantum effects, in my opinion. It's not making us. It's not defining our personalities or defining how we do logic or how we understand the universe. And it's just very irritating to leave these doors, just keep opening doors with vague language, natural philosophy, and such. Just mumbo-jumbo. So anyway, I'm just irritated. And I'd like to have a conversation about physics, but no one seems to want to do that, and why some theories would or would not be applicable. Yeah. I'm just thinking that of the difference between light and sound, and that the compression for sound is, I'm just trying to think of how distance affects, the effect of the fact that the movement of the object producing the sound, the distortion happens immediately at the source because of the movement of the source. In redshift, the movement of the source has nothing to do with the redshift, theoretically, because the light, from its perspective, is not moving. The redshift isn't being created at the source, it's being created between the source and the destination. So the shifting isn't source oriented, and that's a big distinction. You can't add or subtract speed from light. And you can't, through speed, change anything about the photons themselves. You can only change how frequently the photons are produced. So in a theory you could argue that the the manufacture of any redshift that takes place because of the movement of an object producing light, that would be evidence that frequency of light, wavelength of light, would not be an aspect of the character of the photon, but it would be an aspect of the character of how often photons are produced. See, everything we see because of a stream of photons. It's not one photon that we see. We see a stream of them. And so their character is defined by how frequently the photons hit our eye, how rapidly the sequence is. And so if someone's going to theorize that the speed of an object can create redshift, how fast it's moving away or toward you is creating redshift, it could only do so because you're acknowledging that frequency and wavelength is not a phenomenon of the photon itself, it's a phenomenon of the stream of photons. Yeah. So I'm just saying these are the conundrums, problems. Just once you accept that, you know, that opens all kinds of interesting doors to what exactly a photon is. Whether all photons are the same, and we're just talking about volume of photons, or, you know, in terms of the electromagnetic spectrum. Anyway, so I don't want to do a draft science video on the inmendham channel, so never mind. But maybe I will start drawing some, I don't know, I just don't know what to, I have so many things to devote my time to. But these are interesting questions, and I just hate that they're brought up in this video about spiritual babble. And to talk, again, let's just acknowledge there's no natural philosophy. There's just this search for the truth of our existence. And the substance of these many truths have been well and hard defined. We have the map of the genome. We know that there's all kinds of bacterial bits in our genes and very archaic and vestigial crap that is active in the world right now. There's bacteria that are surviving, doing things that our genetic code does. And they do it, and our code ignores it. It doesn't do it anymore. It only does it if we have a throwback, if something goes wrong and that bit of code gets read, and all of a sudden you have a tail or something. So I mean, clearly that we can eliminate any idea of us being created distinct, you know, as something, and then the animals were created. It wouldn't make any sense. You know, why would you give us a piece of code that we don't read, you know, that the mechanism of our reproduction does not consider valid code, does not energize it or activate it, and then make that active in some other organism in the world? No creator would do that. So obviously the animals came first, and obviously we're just the hybrid. We're just the aged, distorted, red-shifted version of that mechanism. We're the old photon. Anyway, so enough of video. But I hate this. I mean, Pyrrho just has no right to mock somebody else's use of science when he plays such games with it. I mean, yeah. And it's just incredible that he can't recognize either the Amazing Atheist or John Doe by voice or sight. Yeah. Alzheimer's much? I don't know. What can you say? Pay attention little? I mean, how little attention do you pay to the people you communicate with? I mean, shit. Fuck. Until next time. I mean, I can't remember anybody's name on planet Earth, but damn. I can fucking recognize celestial bodies the size of the Amazing Atheist. Fucking crazy. Anyway, until next time.